Okay, let's move forward with annotations in AutoCAD. So if you have registered to this webinar, you have or you were given an access to download our exercise files. So I want you to head over to Open and open up bolt-plate.dwg. Double F click to open this. And before we drop in some text, let's head over to our layers and enable or activate text layer. And a good practice in creating a text for drawings is to first define the text layer style. Now, there are two ways to get in the text style dialog box. First is getting into Home tab under Annotation and selecting this text style. The other way is heading over to the Annotate tab, and under Text, we're going to select this Fly Out. Notice by default we have two text styles available. For demonstration purposes, we're going to create a new text style. So selecting New, let me name this as Training. Selecting OK. Next, let's spice things up by changing the default font into Calibri. So with this drop down, I can easily head over to Calibri, which starts with the letter C. So I'm going to hit C, and here it is, Calibri. Next, under font style, we have the option to have this as bold, italic, and regular. So I'm going to stick to italic for now. For the size, we're going to disable annotative for now. And for the height, we'll have this at default to 0 because when we enter the text, we want to have the option to key in our desired height. Okay? So in addition, we can have effects, and we can see that in this preview. Adjust the width factor, let's say 0.8, or apply an oblique angle to your text. Okay, so I'm going to set this back to its default values, disabling upside down and backwards. Okay, so notice here, there's no OK button here. So what we're going to do is select Training. Now this is highlighted now in blue, and select Set Current. Selecting Yes, and selecting Close. And notice as I head over to Home tab, under this annotation drop down, we now have the current text style, which is Training. Next, let's drop in some text. Let's start off by heading to Annotation. Specifically under text, let's first create a single line text. So moving here, specify the start point of text. I'm going to drop this somewhere around here. Next, we are now prompted to enter a height. So I'm going to key in 6, hitting enter, and whenever this appears, simply leave the default so the orientation of the text is horizontal. So hitting enter, and let's now, or I'm going to type in chain plate, capital C and a capital P. Next, I'm going to hit enter and type in all caps, top view. Hitting enter and hitting enter once more. And so notice here under single line text, so whenever we hit enter, it creates a new line of text. So here we have two text, chain plate and top view. Moving forward, let's discover multi-text. So let me pan this to the left. Let's now head up to text and this time select multi-line text. Notice here we are asked to specify our first corner. Let me drop this here. And for the opposite corner, I'm going to move my cursor up to here. So notice we're creating a text box. Left click here. And this time I'm going to type in all caps, notes. And notice for multi-line text, we have this contextual tab indicating that we are in the text editor. So notice the look similar to most of the word processors out there. Next, let's add in some numbering. But first, I'm going to hit enter to get into the second line. Let's now head up under bullets and numbering. Let's select numbered. I'm going to type in all dimensions in millimeters. Hitting enter. We have now a number 2 for the numbering and type in material. And for this, all caps, I'm going to type in steel. In addition, because this is a text box, I can adjust its width to accommodate millimeter to the top line. All dimensions in. So to do that, I'm going to hover over here at the top right and move this further to the right. Okay, so I'll be leaving the rest up to you to discover. And before we close the text editor, let me refine this, placing my cursor at the left of notes and hitting backspace. Selecting close text editor. Next, let's define our dimension styles. So the same with text styles, I can head over to Home tab under Annotation and select Dimension Style. Second one is heading over to Annotate and selecting this fly out. Let's now create a new style. I'm going to select a new and let's name this as training. And let's start with the standard. And I'm going to disable annotative for now. And for use for, we're going to use this dimension style to all of our dimensions. So selecting continue. Let me head over to the lines tab. Now for my personal preference, under color, I want this to inherit our layer. Same with the line type and the line weight. So notice it updated on our preview window. Same also with our extension lines, making this to by layer, making this all to a by layer. I'm okay with this current preview. Let's head over now to symbols and arrows. For the arc length, I prefer preceding dimension text. And for the center mark, I prefer having that mark. Let's move forward to text. Under text style, let's select what we created a while ago, which is training. In addition, I can select this ellipsis and create a new style. Once more, for text color, I want this to inherit our layer. Let me leave the fill color to be a none. Text placement, I want this at their defaults. And for the text alignment, I prefer aligned with dimension line. Next, let's move over to fit. And I'm okay with this defaults, but feel free to customize this depending on your requirements. Let's now move over to primary units. Unit format, I prefer decimal and precision. Let me select this up to 1 digit for the decimal. Also, we have the option to round this out. For zero suppression, I'm going to disable leading and trailing angular dimensions to be decimal degrees. Precision, I prefer this to be at 0. And I'm going to enable trailing. Notice the preview under alternate units. We have the option to display units. In addition, I can select architectural to show this side by side. So let me disable this. And for tolerances, once more, we have the option for method to have a symmetrical, deviation, limits, and basic. So I'm going to stick to none. And finally, select OK. And same with our text styles. I'm going to select training and select set current. Let's now select close. In addition, I'll be showing an angular dimension. So let me update our current drawing. Let me head over first to home, and on our layers, I'm going to enable object. I'm going to hit L for a line, create a line, 10 down, hitting escape, and I'm going to head over to my polar tracking and enable the 30-degree angle increment. Hitting L and creating a 30-degree line here, hitting L once more, hitting escape and deleting this. And I would like to trim out this line segment. In addition, instead of selecting a trim, I can type in T R and select trim. Now this is new in AutoCAD 2021. I'm going to hover simply here and trim this line segment out. Hitting escape. Let's now add the dimensions, but first, make it a habit to update your current layer, selecting dimension. Let's now head over to annotations, selecting linear, and let's define the pitch of our chain plate, hovering over the circle. Left click to select its center point, same with the circle, placing our dimension here, left click. Next, let's try out selecting the radial dimension, selecting radius. Let's dimension this arc instead, placing our dimension here. And finally, to demonstrate the angular dimension, selecting angular, selecting this line and this line. Let's place our dimension here. Okay, so by now, you may think that we made a mistake. And as we progress, we're going to update our dimension to scale. Moving forward, let's create a table. But first, let's create a new layer for our table. So selecting new, and let's name this to table. And let's change its color to red. Selecting OK. In addition, make sure it is a continuous line. Actually, this is the only option here. Selecting OK, and let's close our palette. But first, let's make the table layer active. Closing this. Let's now head over to annotate, and I'm going to pan our geometry to the right. Once more, under annotate, we're going to select table. Let's start off by heading to table style, and for now we're going to stick with the standard. Next, under insert options, I want to be at a start from an empty table. In addition, we have the option to link this to a data, for example, an Excel file. And of course, we want to have a preview of our table. Under insertion behavior, let's enable specify insertion point. And for columns, let's key in 4. Data rows to be 3. And I'm going to leave this for width at 2.5 and row height at 1. For first row cell style, it will be title, second row header, and all other row cell types to be data. Let's now select OK. And for our insertion point, let me place this here. So once more, this looks very small. Let me zoom in. And to reveal the table, it's simply left clicking outside. So left click here. Let's now zoom in to our table. Hovering over our table, and once we left click, it brings us to this contextual tab, which is a table cell. Okay, so let's start off by creating or placing a text on our first cell. So with this cell selected, I'm going to type in dimensions table. So same with the typical spreadsheet, I can hit tab to cycle through, and I can hit our up and down arrow keys. So with the A2 cell, I'm going to type in part name, hitting tab, typing in diameter. And for C2, I'm going to type in radius, and for D2, part number. Okay, so let's move over to A3 cell. Let me type in chain plate 1, copying this, Control C, Control V here, remove 1, replace it with 2, and paste this once more and replace 1 to 3. Hitting tab. So once more, if you're familiar with Excel or the other spreadsheets, the look and feel of tables in AutoCAD is the same as well. So with this, I'm going to leave you to discover the rest. Let's now select Close Text Editor. Double click our mouse wheel to zoom extents, and notice we have created dimensions, multi-line text, and a single line text.